serious because while they have between both brands, I mean, I put the numbers out there on the piece. Between the two brands, the main roster brands, they don't have like a significant amount of women that are on the main roster. Definitely not enough that they use on a consistent basis. So like right now on SmackDown, the most prominent players are Charlotte, Becky, Asuka, whereas everybody else, it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll use you. Raw, it's been, I mean, they've been using more of the women on Raw than they have on SmackDown. But now with this announcement coming about from the mouth of Vince McMahon himself, and the way that they did it, it really, it seemed very nonchalant, or it's just like, oh, and coming up for next year, we'll be introducing women's tag team championships, and then it just seems so quick, so abrupt, and something like that. Where again, it's another historic moment. Now, keep in mind, it's not the first time that women's tag team championships are used on WWF or WWE television. They had women's tag team championships back in the day, and it only lasted, I believe, 6 years once WWE got the rights of having the women's tag team titles from the NWA. And it didn't last long, and that was also a very different climate in pro wrestling in general. So, how are they going to utilize this now with two main roster brands, a third brand with NXT, which is full of excellent women's talent? Now, in a way, I would have been more in favor of having women's tag titles on NXT, but they could. I mean, how the hell are they going to make this work? I don't see any major storyline. I mean, look at what the tag team division's being reduced to right now on the main roster. Think of how it's, the regular men's tag team championships on both shows are not used the way that people would like them to be used. There's no real major storylines in either one. Like the New Day and Usos were the last storyline for the tag titles that was any good. It culminated with a Hell in a Cell match, probably feud of the year. I could almost guarantee it. And on either show, the tag titles really haven't been used that well. Yeah, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. Now, two great wrestlers, but the way they won the tag titles sucked. The fact that the feud that they're having right now with the Authors of Pain is based around Drake Maverick, and the latest fuel to that fire is Drake Maverick peeing on Bobby Roode's robe. It sucks. It really sucks. And you have the Bar as the SmackDown Tag Champions, where, again, two great, I don't want to say great, but I didn't like Sheamus as a singles wrestler, but I've enjoyed Sheamus so much more as a tag team with Cesaro in the time that they've been a tag team. They've been very successful as a tag team. Now they're in the middle of a feud, I guess, with New Day and Usos still in that way, which, I mean, they're concentrating on that, which is okay, but because the New Day are the draw that they are, and the Bar are the draw that they are, and the Usos are the draw that they are, considering, there's no real tag teams that have been built up as that draw. AOP could have. The Revival certainly could have, based on their NXT run. You know, and they have a lot of B-rated tag teams, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But the women's tag division is really just a chance for other women in the main rosters to hold some championship gold, or bronze, or silver, whatever the hell. But my thing is, right, is it going to be like one championship for 2 shows, one championship for 3 shows? Now, I would like to see, let's say, Bayley and Sasha return to NXT for a taping and defend the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships in NXT against 2 of the 3 members of, the MMA 4 Horsewomen. I would like to see them defended against Io Shirai and Mia Yim, or Io Shirai and Dakota Kai. Well, she's injured now, but I would like to see them defended against, let's say, I don't know, a couple of the women from NXT UK, which would now, you're spanning one championship amongst 4 brands. Toni Storm and somebody else, I think that's the way that it's going to have to go. Is one set of titles for 4 brands. If you want to wind up doing it that. There's no way that you can have 2 sets of women's tag team championships to justify. Because, okay, let's say you have 3 women as champion. I believe one roster had like 13 women and the other one had like 15. So you have 3 champions and X amount of other chasers, but you still really don't have the consistency like for different challengers, unless you keep doing shakeups. Or you expand the women on the main roster to a good amount. Now, obviously, you would think the Riot Squad are contenders, Bayley and Sasha. Probably, if they still kept going at it this way, Naomi and Asuka could have been an option. Charlotte and Becky could be an option if they decide to keep going that way. But then, are they going to build credible storylines for them? Are they going to just look at it as an afterthought and say, hey, you know what? Let's throw a championship match on Raw and or SmackDown. All right, so these women are saying they're fighting champions. Okay, they'll defend on both Raw and SmackDown. There are even more defending champions. You might also be creating more of a workload for those 2 women, whoever they may be, whenever they go through with this as the inaugural champions. So there won't be enough, in my opinion, not enough chasers or potential for chasers with the amount of people holding the titles. Everything's going to get stale real fast. It's literally, again, it's a great big deal. I'm not taking that away from them. It is a big deal that this is even happening. But this is literally going to be what a lot of the mid-card championships have become over the last several years, where it's like, it's just exhibition championships. It's just, paperweight. You're just holding it for the sake of holding it, saying that I'm a champ. So this is going to become that, probably, and we might get some really good matches out of it. We may not, but the possibilities are endless. But I feel that the best way to properly do this correctly, I know I'm saying too many of the same shit, but you need to have one set of champions for multiple brands. And I feel that's the only way that it's going to work. You can't have you don't have enough stability. You don't have enough depth in your rosters, Raw and SmackDown, to have two sets of women's tag team champions. Is this something that's going to be revealed at WrestleMania? Is this that Smiley, which would make sense? But then, is this going to be one of those things where it's on the kickoff show, which I think would be a big slap in the face in the midst of another big historic moment? I don't believe that they've done many things. I don't want to say that they haven't done many things correct. I mean, a lot of good has come of this women's evolution. And the two things I've always advocated for: women's wrestling and tag team wrestling. And there's a lot of things that they did to kind of ruin the moment. And the one thing that I can think of is James Ellsworth, the fucking creep that he is, excuse my language, where he wins the first ever women's Money in the Bank match for Carmella. He grabs the briefcase, drops it, she grabs it. That was so stupid. In such a historic moment, you did that to take away from the moment. And then they had to do nice by it and have a rematch, another Money in the Bank match on a SmackDown to do it the correct way, which they should have done the first time. So, then when Asuka wins the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, in the midst of her decision, that's the time that they choose to have Ronda Rousey come in. Now, I get it. It brought attention to the WWE and, more importantly, to the women's division. Evolution should have happened. I mean, I'm sure it happened as organic as possible, but it still felt like that was a make nice for the fact that WWE's getting money, this huge chunk of money for all these Saudi shows, and women can't even compete there. And gave them their own event around the time of the Saudi show. So then at least I believe there are going to be more women's shows coming up. Another Evolution or something like that, right? Excuse me. You have Charlotte and Asuka at WrestleMania pull off a great match. Asuka's undefeated streak comes to an end. Big moment. And you kind of take the attention away from somebody whispering into Cena's ear, and then he has to run across the stage to go to the back. There's certain, again, they've done tremendous work and they've made tremendous progress with the women's division in WWE, but my God, they really dropped the ball, or, the tiniest of details they really messed up with the women, over the course of time. But this is another one I can see them messing up. Again, if this does indeed, like, they do the reveal of the titles and all that, and the inaugural champions either get introduced at the Royal Rumble or Fastlane, which I think would be stupid, or WrestleMania. The only events that I feel would be justifiable would be Rumble or Mania. I would prefer, if they're doing it, I would prefer them revealing it at WrestleMania. It's the biggest show of the year. You want to get the women more prominent spotlight and everything else, that's where you introduce it. But you also can't be having it on the kickoff show. Just stick with the two battle royals that you've been having at WrestleMania every year and get that on the main card. I mean, you have plenty of time for a show. But then I can also see them doing something really ridiculous to spoil that moment too. Because, again, it's only been track record, and it's also me paying attention to very minor details that some people in a moment don't think about, but then you look at it, it's just like, wow, did they really just do that? And I'm sure many people on Twitter too have been like, "Wow, they really just do that?" And